What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk about a new Shudder original movie that just dropped in the past couple of days. And I wanted to see this movie when it had its initial theatrical run because I heard a ton of praise about this. People seem to really enjoy it. And all I knew before I got into this movie, it's a retelling of Cinderella in an incredibly demented and twisted way. And I always really appreciate when a director can take, a piece of media that is so well renowned and that people know and kind of change it completely and do something dramatically different. So I was really looking forward to this movie, and the film I'm going to be telling you about today is The Ugly Stepsister. The Ugly Stepsister is directed by Emilie Christine Blichfeldt. In a fairy tale kingdom where beauty is a brutal business, Elvira battles to compete with her incredibly beautiful stepsister, and she will go to any length to catch the prince's eye. So I was really excited to watch this movie. Like I said, I love demented retelling of classic tales, where a director can kind of take a property that we're very familiar with and completely and totally twist it. And what I will say is I really enjoyed this movie. I don't think it's perfect by any means. I have some issues with the pacing of the film. I feel like it overstays its welcome in a couple of moments where some certain things could be refined to streamline it to make it more effective. But what I will say is I think it's beautifully shot. I love the production design. I love how demented and twisted it gets, and I really think the themes that the film explores in terms of like women and body image associated with women and misogyny overall, family trauma. There's so many great themes that this movie explores that by the end I was just really appreciative of the approach that the director took because I felt like all of those issues that it was exploring were very hard hitting, and I'm excited to tell you a little bit about it today. So the beginning of the movie, we are introduced to Elvira, and we see her in a horse-drawn carriage traveling with her mother Rebecca and her sister Alma, and we learn that her mother Rebecca has just married this man because he is apparently supposed to have a ton of money and the family is broke. They don't have anything. They're barely surviving. And so they get to the house and they're having their first dinner together. And Elvira meets Agnes, who is going to be her new stepsister. And right off the gate, it doesn't seem like the two of them get along very well. And while they're at the dinner table, the father coughs up blood and he dies right there at the table. And we learn early on in the movie that the man lied to Rebecca. He has absolutely no money whatsoever. And so they're broke again. They're living in this house and they're going to have to try to find a way to survive. And we learn early on Rebecca is a horrible mother. She's incredibly manipulative. She treats her children like garbage, and she's essentially just trying to use them in order to obtain wealth. And so what she does is she forces Elvira to go through these horrible medical procedures to change the look of her face, to get braces removed, to lose weight, to do all of these different things in hopes that this young prince in the community will marry her. And the entirety of the film is Elvira going through this horrible procedure while also being at odds with her new stepsister, and the two of them getting into it, the two of them not being close, and what the results of this relationship will be. So like I said, this movie is gnarly. It is very well done. It's disgusting in moments, and that's what I appreciated about it, is taking this Cinderella story and doing something really kind of vile with it that speaks volumes to a message that I think is really important. For starters, I want to talk about the performances. All of the actors and actresses in this are incredible. There were moments that were giving like Julia Ducournau. There were moments that were giving Yorgos Lanthimos. A lot of really incredible directors now that kind of subvert audiences with really like disgusting, grotesque imagery that also thematically speaks volumes to larger issues. And that's what I really liked about this movie. The performances from these actors, there's some truly like gripping, harrowing, horrifying stuff in this movie, but there's also some darkly comedic absurdism that I think balances very well together. And because of these performances and how well each one of these actors and actresses are playing into their roles, it makes it all the more believable. This movie is beautifully shot. There's some really incredible moments in this. There's one sex scene in particular in this movie that, like, the way it was shot, I was like, what went into this director's mind to frame this in this very specific way? but I appreciated it a lot. Like it has so much personality, and that's also associated with the incredible production design. The costumes in this look really great. I feel like for the space the movie is in, it has a very distinct personality, which is another reason that it made the movie very, very easy to watch. I also loved the body horror elements in this. There's like some disgusting stuff in this, and it's not necessarily like constant blood and guts, but it's almost more the implications of the body horror and how it associates with the themes of the movie that makes it even more horrifying. In the third act, there's some really just like disgusting, disturbing imagery. But I think, like, especially a lot of the stuff early on in the movie, I really liked the way that the body horror ties so distinctly in to the themes that the film is trying to convey. And the director, she did a really great job getting me to cringe a few times during the movie, which doesn't always happen. I've seen a lot, I've watched a ton of movies, but they do a really nice job in this. It was very well executed. And like I said, everything about this movie that makes it successful is about the themes that the film is trying to explore. For starters, I think the most important thing is the way women are perceived and the way that they have expectations placed upon them about their body image. And it's something that is incredibly unfair and that's wrong. And, especially taking something in this time period, because we like to think that we've evolved as a species, but unfortunately we haven't. There are a ton of shallow people out there that think body image is the only important thing when, it comes to relationships. And there's this one scene that I just thought was really incredible where Elvira's character just gets completely naked in the room and she's like sitting in a chair, and it's like the way like they frame her butt sitting on the chair and like looking at her from a side angle where she has like a little bit of a stomach, and it's like she all of the flaws that this person has are being showcased to an extreme degree where she's like fixating on each and every one of these issues. And unfortunately that's so true for so many women in this world, where it's like this level of expectation for how you are supposed to be perceived and how you should be viewed as a woman, as a traditional woman. And it's so incredibly silly when you boil it down, because each human being looks different, each human being lives a different life, they respond to situations differently. Not everyone is going to look like a supermodel. That's just not the world that we live in. And having those expectations for people, it's just ridiculous. It's absurd. Like no human being should have that level of expectation. And I think one of the things that's so amazing about the world we live in is that the what makes a human being beautiful and what makes a human being special is the differences that they have from other people. And I thought that was an incredibly powerful scene, and I think that there's so much about that, like I said, associated with the body horror. The mom makes her get this procedure where her nose gets reshaped, and they like put this thing in the middle of her nose and they like hit it really hard to kind of break the bones in her nose. And that was honestly, comparatively to all the other stuff in this movie, that was one of the most horrific scenes to me. Just like experiencing that pain in real time, thinking about like there's not numbing medicine and things of that nature like there is now. And so that was horrible. And like thinking about this person putting themselves through that experience because it's what they think they have to do in order to obtain love. It was just it's harsh when you think about it. And then the next thing I want to talk about is the familial pressure. The mother in this movie is despicable. She's a horrible human being who sees her daughters as nothing more than property to sell off so that she can have money. And the only reason Elvira gets put in that situation, aside from her other sister, is because her sister hasn't had her first period yet. She's not even old enough really to kind of be dished out into the dating world. And so that puts a ton of pressure on her. And because of the sins of the parent, she has to experience all these things to an extreme level. And what's interesting is when we look at the Cinderella tale, the ugly stepsister is always, portrayed as these horrible characters. They're portrayed as villains. And what I liked about this movie is she commits horrible actions as the film goes on, but you almost feel sympathy for her because of the level of pressure put on her from her mother. She feels like she has no other option, and she feels that she has no semblance of love from anyone if she doesn't look better. And that's just like also very harrowing. And as someone who's experienced a lot of family trauma in my life, it's like having that representation of the sins of the parent can directly impact the child. I liked that part of the movie a lot. And it does a really great job kind of poking at misogyny on the nose. All of the men in this movie are incredibly disgusting. They're portrayed in a very overblown, nasty, gross way. Almost everything they're saying is like overtly sexual and disgusting, and just like it never showcases the prince in this movie as a good human. He's exposed as kind of a disgusting, vile person. There's even like this great thing that where Elvira's character's constantly reading poetry, and she makes a comment about like he says something about a serpent, and she's like, what do you think he's talking about? And her sister's like, his penis. It's like it's the director's really on the nose with it, but for a very intentional reason. And that's another thing I appreciate was tackling misogyny head on, especially in terms of when you think of like the regular Cinderella story and how that all plays out, and how like realistically in that situation, someone falling for someone that they've barely known for 2 minutes, and like the absurdity of the whole situation. And so like taking all of those different things thematically and packaging them together in one movie works really well. Like I said, my biggest issues with this, some of the pacing in the movie isn't great. There were a couple of moments where I felt like some of the scenes, especially when Elvira is going through these courses to like be a lady, some of them just felt a little bit too cyclical. I felt like they could have streamlined a little bit of that process, maybe to do some more body horror things, because the stuff with her ingesting the tapeworm, just really gnarly stuff. Like thinking about that was just harsh. But overall, I think the movie is very successful at what it tries to accomplish. It had me continuously thinking about its themes long after it's over. And I think if any of this sounds interesting to you, you'll really appreciate The Ugly Stepsister. So have you seen The Ugly Stepsister? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was very well done. I really appreciated it a lot. I liked the themes that it explored, and it's a movie I'll definitely watch again. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.